The context. Sykkuno is a large indie content creator who started streaming on Twitch on December 19th, 2018, and is perhaps most notable for his Among Us streams during 2020. The controversy began on April 10th, 2026, when indie VTuber Hemomal posted a 32-page Google Docie accusing Sykkuno of being a serial cheater, manipulator, and predator as a way to warn others of his conduct. The Google Docie. The document opens with Mel's previously mentioned accusations towards Sykkuno, along with a call to action for those who were previously affected by his actions. The document focuses on two impacted individuals, Mel and Elphelia. Starting with Mel, to break down the timeline of events, after Sykkuno followed Mel on February 14th, 2026, Mel would engage first by sending him a DM the next day, which would lead to them adding each other on Discord after their initial conversation, where their conversations would spike to romantic talks within a month of first contact. The two would discuss previous relationships, where Sykkuno would claim that he was previously in a relationship before breaking up, which turned out to be a false statement. Sykkuno would also send a fair amount of money to Mel unprompted, which was, according to Mel, a tactic that was often used with women he was interested in. This would be corroborated by Elphelia as well, who was sent over 1,700 USD. With Elphelia, she and Sykkuno would talk less frequently, but over a much longer period of time, getting to a point where Sykkuno would offer to fully cover her trip to TFT Paris, and potentially off-Kai as well, which Mel would point out to be around the same time he was discussing move-in plans with her. Rumors would start to spread about Sykkuno's conduct of taking advantage of smaller creators, resulting in Elphelia asking Sykkuno about them on December 12th, 2025, to which he would claim that they were false. Mel would find out whether these rumors were true or not after an unnamed individual mentioned nasty rumors about indie VTuber Bao after he was rejected by Mel, leading to Mel reaching out to her out of concern through one of Bao's mods. During their conversation, Sykkuno would be brought up by Mel after telling the two that she was going on a date with him, to which the two would be adamant about having her not go with him, citing several unnamed individuals reaching out to Bao about his behaviors that matched the ongoing rumors. The three would talk with Sykkuno's girlfriend about his actions, referencing previously included screenshots of interactions between him and other women. This would be the breaking point for his girlfriend, as the two had lived together for years by that point, and she was mortified to hear the events that transpired. The document would end with a YouTube link to a call between Mel and Sykkuno, where he would end up admitting to everything that was discussed in the document, as well as a final call to action for those impacted by his conduct. The responses. Given the nature of the controversy, this would cause one of the largest community responses in recent times, competing with controversies such as the 1,000-page Cinder Docky in terms of overall community response and division. Roughly 2 hours after the release of Mel's document, news commentator Mugen would release a 1-hour video going into a deeper analysis of the document. Mugen's video and Mel's document would face both very high praise and very vocal criticism. While there was a collective agreement that Sykkuno was in the wrong for his actions, there was a clear divide as to how the community should perceive and digest the information. The main sentiments from supporters were that a fair amount of them were also reached out to by Sykkuno, presumably for the same reasons that he admitted to. People weren't critical enough of Sykkuno's behavior due to his status and gender, and people weren't taking the massive age gap between parties as seriously as they should. The main sentiments from critics were that the call out and the video were questionably coordinated in a way that makes the video seem more like an attempt to cash in on a high-profile controversy rather than a properly researched video. Mel's willingness to give him a second chance was very odd, and the usage of the term predator to be a very questionable way of phrasing the situation, which would start a massive debate regarding whether or not the term was appropriately used. This debate primarily came from how members of the community define the term, as there are two main definitions depending on their application. In a legal application, the term focuses more on the powerful designation of an individual who has committed severe or several sexual offenses. This is legally considered a tier above the sex offender designation and is given when a court deems an individual to be a severe danger to the public. In the social application, the term is more of a behavioral descriptor of an individual's conduct that focuses more on the nature of the interactions rather than the criminal aspects. Actions such as grooming, power imbalance, and targeting individuals are often associated with this label, and serve more as a blacklist warning rather than a criminal damnation, though it does have the problem of being viewed as very closely associated with the criminal designation, as seen in this particular controversy. The growing divide. On April 11th, 2026, indie VTuber Powder would comment on this controversy, stating that while there is valid criticism in Sykkuno's conduct, she felt that some of those calling Sykkuno out weren't necessarily victims, as they should have been aware of the power dynamic, and would also call out Mugen and those unreasonably using the predator term. Mugen would respond the same day with a very critical tweet by making choice statements against Powder, one of which claiming that Powder secretly has dated a black guy, even though she keeps saying that she can't stand minorities. This would lead to a very negative sentiment towards Mugen, with many feeling that his quote-unquote crash out post was a very poor way of handling Powder's tweet, along with finding his coverage to be unusually biased compared to previous videos. More and more content creators in and outside of the VTubing community would begin speaking about the controversy, with just as mixed opinions as the overall content creation community, though in the end, Sykkuno would delete his community Discord server and Twitter community as a result of this controversy. The aftermath. As of writing the script, discourse revolving around the controversy continues to be held, with continuously mixed thoughts and opinions regarding the details of the controversy. Mel would post a few tweets containing clarifications during the peak of the controversy, though would ultimately stop talking about it after April 12th, while Alphelia would end up going private on Twitter as of writing of this script. With Mugen, he would post a tweet on April 14th, addressing a few things regarding the situation. He would state that, while he's flattered that Mel thinks of him as a close friend, he and Mel only spoke for the first time on April 7th. He would hint at a deeper rabbit hole with the Sykkuno controversy and plan to continue making videos as normal. While some have viewed this as a fair attempt at damage control, others have felt that the PR-esque tweet was very iffy, feeling that Mugen threw Mel under the bus and refused to take any form of accountability that they felt was necessary. On April 16th, 2026, Sykkuno would release a response to the controversy through a one-page docu. In this docu, Sykkuno would admit to his unfaithful actions and announce a hiatus to work on himself and his relationship with his girlfriend, though he would call out those who spread false informations and accusations about him. His girlfriend would allegedly state that, while it was an awful revelation, she never wanted this controversy to go public in the first place, and was never contacted by the people involved regarding its publication. She would end her statement by confirming that the two would remain together, with the hope of continuing to repair their relationship. While many would find his response to be a poor PR attempt, and his girlfriend's decision to stay be a very dubious one, there would be an influx of negative eyes on the primary accusers, with community members calling them out for publicizing the controversy without taking the time to confirm with Sykkuno's girlfriend about whether to go public or not. Bao would also briefly address the situation the same day, corroborating Mel's document by explaining the events that had occurred from her perspective. Critics believe that Sykkuno has the opportunity to seek civil damages for defamation regarding this case through a lawsuit, citing the previously mentioned legal definition of the predator term. When polling my community at a 95% confidence level regarding this controversy back on April 13th, this generally appeared to be a shared sentiment, with about 64% of respondents, plus or minus 2.87%, feeling that a lawsuit could potentially arise from the usage of the terms, regardless of whether they felt it was appropriately used or not. Though, ultimately, we cannot determine whether Sykkuno would actually follow through with one or not. As with all my videos, do not harass anyone in or outside of this video.